Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Nurgle and the Beastmen. It's going to be myself with Epidemius facing off against Subutai, who is going to be rocking the Doom Bull with his brass knuckle boxing, looking to punch some demons in the face. Every demon had a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Now, here in the front line, we're going to be going for a demonic build, so it's going to be Plague Bearers, backed up by a Cultist of Nurgle, Epidemius, and a Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle. Now, Epidemius is very good at blob play because of his Tallyman ability, so as demons die near him, they eventually feed his buff, and it's going to be giving nearby units physical resist and melee attack, and makes Epidemius a hell of a blob character, and also a decent fighter to boot. 50-50 and 420, certainly not bad. He knows how to blaze it up. But yes, he does have the Tallyman's Blades for a Plague Bearer summon, Sands of Sickness, and Epidemic Outburst as well. The rest of the core is going to be some Marauder Horsemen to contest beast mobility here, and for the Bray Herd, they're going to be very standard. Mass Ungor Raiders to shoot against the very Plague Bears and Nurgle units. Centaurs with throwing axes to skirmish my heavy armor and just really take advantage of the mobility here. And that is pretty much it, aside from a bunch of Haggard Spearmen, the Butchers of Kalkengard. No, Minotaurs with Great Opens. Makes sense. There's a couple new big Nurgle threats, right? Like, you probably don't see a Toad Dragon in this matchup, but even still, you might see, like, Plague Ogres or Rot Knights. So having the Minotaurs also against Plague Toads, it's a good idea. Doom Bull just punches things in the face and enjoys himself, and that is it. So what we're going to be doing out of the gates is making a play for Objective 3. So we do a little bit of fast forwarding here. We have a bit of a skirmish game. Horsemen versus Centaurs with throwing axes. Pretty much do the exact same thing. Poking the Minotaurs right there, forcing them back. And now the objectives in battling will begin. So the Beastmen are going to do what they always do against Nurgle, which is take advantage of how slow my potatoes are. So they're going to be bouncing between two objectives and using their raiders to pop out of the trees and shoot, which is a very, very clean play. So my poor Plague Bearers are going to be forced to retreat here. And Epidemius is in a bit of a rock and a hard place. You know, he's going to have to figure out where he wants to play, which objective he wants to hold down, and we will see how that all unfurls here. Calling in an answer against Centaurs is going to be the Soul Grinder. So the Soul Grinder has some nice mid-range shots here, and you can see pours some good cost-effective firepower into the Centaurs as well as the Ungor Spearman herds, while the throwing axes of my units continue fighting it out. Plague Bears try and intercept, but the Ungor Spearman herds are a little bit too quick, and I'm going to get rickrolled by those. Meanwhile, we move up on Objective 2 here. The double Plague Bearer is going to be staying close to Big Papa Epidemius because he wants to build up that tally. It's only at 2% now because pretty much nothing has died near him, but that's going to be changing the longer I sit there for sure. Overall, though, it looks like the Beastmen are going to make a play for my back objective. It seems like they're just going to poke with Raiders on this one and accrue value and press my home objective, which is a pretty smart idea in my opinion. Pestigore is being called in. Not that they're particularly good against Beastmen, honestly, because Beastmen don't have much armor. They'll be out-traded by a ton of Beastmen equivalents, like Gores with dual weapons. But I needed a Vanguard unit to get here quickly, right? Because the Beastman mobility was pouring in. I wanted to maintain some capture weight. Meanwhile, my Soul Grinder of Nurgle is just being hunted by the dreaded Doom Bull, which is very cost-effective. The Doom Bull costs, I believe, a little bit less than the Soul Grinder, so call it a win. Plague Bears fighting in the point, and over here we're just anchoring it down with our two units while the Raiders and Centaurs, the throwing axes, keep poking. But they're having to shoot through trees, which is good, so a lot of their firepower is being mitigated. Arguably at this point, I maybe should have set Epidemius and one Plague Bearer back here and just left like 2 units to hold this, but the amount of damage I'm taking here, I was trying to build up Epidemius' aura and play that one out, but we'll see how that goes. Centaur is going to be kiting back against the Minotaurs with Great Opens. Meanwhile, the Mino over here, or the Doom Bull, dude, he's so cool looking. Doom Bulls are incredibly rad. Beastmen are actually probably the second best faction, I would say, in tabletop in Old World. Beastmen are probably number 1 or number 2, with Warriors of Chaos as well. In the current Old World edition, I mean the only edition, shooting is really, really haggard in general. There's a couple niche applications for it, but the melee-centric factions that can bring like really powerful melee combat mechanics and characters, in my experience, tend to dominate. Tomb Kings being a bit of an exception to shooting. Their Shopti Great Bows and their special rule, the Arrows of Asaph, where they can never have their shooting roll modified, it makes them pretty viable, and that's why Tomb Kings are the 3rd strongest faction in the game, in my opinion. So, Rot Knight's going to be cruising up, and we're going to try him out. You know, I haven't messed with Rot Knights too much. I've had some limited success here and there, but now they're going to be charging into the Centaurs while the Minotaurs with Great Opens do prepare another charge on them, and they're going to be trying to retreat away while Throwing Axe support continues to pepper down the Minos with Great Opens. My opponent does have Centaurs with Throwing Axes back here, so it's going to get a little messy, and value trading is even, but the objectives are still in my favor, but we'll see for how long. Here we got some Plague Bearers battling Ungor Raiders. We call out some Poison Doggos to help the fight with the Rot Knights, and now the Rot Knights are going to just turn and fight. So a little bit rough. They do get dazed. Their melee defense is going to be lowered by 10, which is a big deal, but I'm hoping they'll be able to uptrade into Centaurs while the Hounds distract several of the Minotaur units here and nibble at them. And yeah, Minotaurs have low armor and not the best MD, so a Hound unit can even squeeze some attacks in there. On the objective we hold, we do have the Plague Bearers, and Epidemius is just farming that aura over here. And as far as the farming goes, he is up to 8%, so not as good, honestly. Probably should have had Epidemius back here, but I felt like I needed an anchor to make sure my opponent couldn't overwhelm that objective. So far my heroes have been really out of the fight, which is tough. You know, we're kind of playing a little bit of a dicey situation here. Marauders with throwing axes, still throwing away at the Marauders. Not the Marauders, the Minotaurs, they both start with M. Confused me there. Rot Knight's doing okay. Only 300 value though. To be honest, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I felt like a Chaos Knight unit would have held up exponentially better. I guess the higher armor on the Chaos Knights would have helped against some of the chaff-centric units, but at the end of the day, like, those Rot Knights just kind of got straight up pounded there, so a little bit disappointed on those bad boys. I'm starting to think the more I play with Rot Knights, the more overcosted they are. 1800 is a really big price point. Granted, they do beat things like Skull Crushers head-to-head. I'd have to see how they do against Demis with Halberds. That would be a bit of an interesting test. I feel like they would beat a Demi Halberd, but they do get wrecked there by the Minos with great weapons. And the Marauder Horsemen going to be rallying here, but in the backfield, the Beastmen doing some nasty work. Meanwhile, we're barely holding on to the objectives, and really a testament to how good of a unit Plague Bearers are. At 700 gold, yeah, only 300 value, but the fact that they held all day against multiple units that, just like Raiders and you know, high DPS units here, we got Pestigors coming in, which won't be very good against them, but they held very, very well, and I was happy about that. Epidemius and company just screening out the Beastmen advance here. We do send the Soul Grinder up, and he's going to be ripping some shots. At the value, I'm at 4.5 against 5.3 with a little bit of healing. Probably an even-ish battle. I would say the Beastmen are probably slightly ahead, so I got to find a way to get my back objective back. The Traderkins have been pretty nasty, and now I'm going to be trying to call in Plague Bearers to help out. I need a little bit of milk on this objective, while in the back, the Rot Knights do rally. They chase down some Centaurs here, and the Minotaurs also get broken as well. We got Pesties, and we got a lot of good units here, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to start trading back into the game, because they have fallen behind pretty decently on value. So Rot Knights get in, and they're super, super cool looking, that is for damn sure. We're going to start shanking down some of the Centaurs and hopefully trading well. We do see the Tears of Nurgle. That is the ability from the Pestigors being spread onto Centaurs, so their movement speed is 8 right now, so they can't really escape me. And that's why Pestigors have some nice niche applications. Their ability to slow things down is quite good. So knowing I need some help on the back objective, I'm going to leave Epidemius and the 2 beat-up Plague Bearers and the Soul Grinder here with the Nurgle caster bouncing between the points. And we just leave the Plague Bearers here, not Plague Bearers, but the Summon Plague Bearer right here with the Cultist trying to grind that point. Meanwhile, we got Popcorn Bandits moving up, Nurglings, a huge Traderkin going down by Subutai there, beautiful cast. Really, really nails those Marauders and Pestigors as well as the Rot Knights, so the Rot Knights going to get punished once again. Looking at their value so far, they are at 655, but another Minotaur with great weapon is going to charge them, and that's going to be a bad fight. The Minos only cost 1200. And I feel like they trade really well. Like, it's probably a horrible trade for me. So now we're going to be trying to mix it up. We call them Chaos Knights, which the heavy metal, you know, old tried and true. Minotaurs have low armor anyway, so I was like, you know what? Yeah, the anti-large is nice, but Chaos Knights have way more models, and their damage output is not that much different than a Rot Knight. So I felt like maybe they're just arguably better, right? So the Minotaurs here are getting ground down. Meanwhile, the Pestigors and Marauders trying to get their way back in. The Nurglings, I don't remember. I think they might have just died like instantly over here, gotten like run over by something. I don't know. I could have sworn I had some Nurglings here. But Epidemius holding on here. He's been fighting over on this side objective a little bit and buffing where he can. Soul Grinder's going to shoot some shots back there at the Beastmen. We are up on points, but we don't have a whole lot of time. You know, it's going to start working against us as we get into the mid-game. For anybody who's like watched the Dune Spice Wars stuff, it's very similar to like when like everybody's at 20k hedge and it's like the game could go either way at any moment. It's very, very dodgy for sure. Butchers of Kalkengard coming in, great choice. Good late game sweeper unit. I don't really have much on the battlefield that's excellent against them. Epidemius is going to be trying to roll up here, but the Pestigors are going to be screening him out, but at least he gets to fight now and provide a little bit of utility. In the backfield, Chaos Knight's going to be sweeping around the side, looking to get onto the Centaurs, and the Nurglings cleaning up the chaff. Probably should have stayed to finish off that Bray Shaman. He's hanging in there. And now he's probably going to get a couple more Traderkins because I didn't finish him. So that was a pretty colossal misplay, but looking at the points and the value, we did pull the value back. We've had a lot of cost-effective trades. The Chaos Knights came in and showed that they are the OG cab for a reason. Meanwhile, Epidemius trapped up by Pesties, trying to support his Plague Bearers. But at the end of the day, Epidemius has been a really suboptimal pick against Beastmen. I think Epidemius is really good against like Khorne, although Khorne is pretty mobile too, but people who want to fight you head on more so. And against slower factions that need to fight you head on like Dwarves, he can actually be surprisingly underrated. But against the Beastmen's mobility, he's been doing really poorly this game. He only has 28 movement speed, so getting him around the map is brutal against his mobility. Also, it could be something where it's map dependent. You have two objectives that are like close together side by side. Maybe his ability to waddle between them could be better, but yeah, it's tricky, man. It's tricky. So Chaos Knights here getting hit by Traderkin, but they already have accrued more value than the Rot Knights have. And they cost 300 less, right? And they're also better utility against infantry, whereas Rot Knights are terrible against infantry for what they do. The Chaos Knights, just I think in this matchup at least, if you're playing against big armor, Chaos Knights will kind of struggle, right? Like if they had to fight something like a Griffin Legion, they wouldn't really, I mean, they might win, but it wouldn't be terribly effective. Whereas Rot Knights would shine in that situation. But against like Beastmen, who do spam a lot of like cheap lightly armored infantry and their monsters are lightly armored or monstrous infantry, I think it would be a little bit stronger to go the other way. So some Pesties do arrive. Plague Bearers living up to their name. Epidemius is like, all right, I guess I'm just going to waddle back to the point now and try and help out. So I need to get this objective back. We are, you know, keeping the value relatively even, getting some good trades. The Nurgle Sorcerer does roll in, and he gets a big Erect Rancid Visitations, which is an amazing spell. Really, really good. 800, 700, 600, and it straight up might just take down this bull. That was overcasted, a ton of Winds of Magic, and Nurgle's Blessings have afflicted the Doom Bull. So this is where we get back, because the Beastman army, you can see a lot of wavering going down, a lot of issues there. Mobility coming in via Marauder Horsemen with Throwing Axes against the Butchers of Kalkengard. And Epidemius is at least finally able to get an opportunity to do something here. He does summon an Exalted Plaguebearer unit with a Pestigors, and that is the Tallyman's Blades. It's really good. One of the best uses of the Exalted Plaguebearer summon is to summon it and snipe something with their hand grenades. But in this case, we just need to use it, because they can't really catch any of his good targets, right? But he's leaderless right now. The Brave Shaman is also routing off the battlefield, so the Beastmen have lost their leadership kit, and we've pulled a pretty substantial value lead, 10.8 against 9.6. So the Beastmen are going to start feeling it, but the question is, with their mobility and their pressure, am I going to have enough time to get these objectives? We're pretty safe on objective 3. I don't think there's too much drama over there, but you know, this is largely due to a summon unit, right? The summon unit's going to be disappearing soon. It did great work, but I need to start waddling towards objective 3 to get the triple cap on my opponent, or else we're going to probably lose the game here. Now back towards objective 1, we do see the Bray Herd fanning out, trying to kite me a little bit. Tears of Nurgle, have they activated? Doesn't look like it. A couple Chaos Knights, the Remnants do move in, and they're fighting very well. Chaos Knights up to 1,000 value, so certainly better performance than their compatriots, which are way more pricey. In the backfield, a couple Centaurs get taken apart by Poison Hounds, just nibbling through some of the Beastmen backfield pressure. Meanwhile, up on the point, we're trying to get some terror to rout off these filthy beasts, and Plague Bearers will be battling with Pestigors. Now, Plague Bearers will dominate Pestigors in combat. It'll be an extremely one-sided affair. I mean, the Plague Bearers cost only 50 more, but Pestigors' stat line is just... I mean, it's similar to Plague Bearers, but Plague Bearers hit harder, and they just have like a way more massive HP pool. So that's going to be a very dominant fight for the Plague Bearers here. Meanwhile, on the objective, Soul Grinder trying to rout with the Butchers of Kalkengard hanging on like absolute champions. And my back point, objective 3, looking a little bit dicey as well, as Subutai does close into a situation where I might need to be triple cap again. Calling in Plague Bearers and more Marauder Horsemen. Certainly missing faster units. Maybe some Forsaken could be good. Granted, Forsaken are a little bit risky against the new Pesties. Pesties and Minotaurs are very, very good against Forsaken, so overall, that was my concern. We're going to be using, I believe, a Rancid Visitation here. He had no heroes left to snipe, so I was like, all right, let's just get on the big Butchers of Kalkengard, try and break him down while the Plague Bearers move up. And we're soon going to have this objective. A couple units rallying here. We got Popcorn Bandits, the Nurglings on the way over. Once again, the Hounds intercept these Centaurs that are diving into the backfield while the Throwing Axes outmaneuver them a little bit, and that is going to be some big casualties here. Epidemius and company doing well here. You know, he's anchoring. He's probably not got much value yet. He literally hasn't been able to fight. He's so slow against the Beastmen. But he's going to go after the Ungor Raiders, and then they're going to move on towards objective Dose there to see if we can get that. But a couple of Beastmen. Pestigor is going to be moving for the point. Up here on objective 2, Plague Bearers duking it out versus the Butchers of Kalkengard, and as we said, the Plague Bearers do dominate the Pestigors in combat pretty decisively. But do we have enough time, ladies and gentlemen? It's going to be really, really tough. Couple Poison Hounds clean these up, and these are basic Centaurs. Hopefully the Poison Hounds will be able to help, but nope, the Poison Hounds have their own mind, and they're going to be heading to objective 3 here to try and pick off the Pestigors, which is a good idea considering they were threatening the objective. But the Centaurs chasing the Throwing Axes is a little bit tough, and a lot of casualties are coming out, but it seems like some of the Hounds are actually still nibbling on them, which is funny. Another Throwing Axe. I know I need mass mobility here on the back point. We're probably going to get this one back soon. Plague Bearer units defeating Pestigors. Nurglings have arrived up on the point, but unfortunately he reached 1250 before I was able to get to 1,000. So it is going to be a triple cap, but we're going for it. This is like Epidemius' time to finally shine. He's going to roll into the objective here, and in a straight fight, he might actually be able to beat a Doom Bull one-on-one. He's got like 2,000 more HP. His stats are worse for sure, but the poison, you know, he's a really, really actually respectable fighter. So Beastmen trying to hold on to this point for as long as they can, throwing Centaurs into a bit of a tough situation. We do rear charge these Centaurs here with our Marauder Horsemen throwing axes. Hopefully they'll be able to drag down some of the Centis with that rear charge here and just swarming on to try and get the capture weight. And we are going to get it. So we have the double cap, and now we just need to get back here to the Beastmen's back objective, but it was too little too late, it looks like. It's only 70 points left. I do use a little bit of a plague, but the Horsemen will roll up, but they're just going to get swarmed by Centaurs and mobility. And we did manage to pull ahead by almost 2,000 value. So in the late game, we really traded well, and overall, I was very happy with this. This was a tournament match, and I wanted to experiment with Epidemius, see how he would fare in this matchup, but I quickly learned a harsh lesson. I mean, I think if we have any sort of a mobile lord, the game is just like, we were up 2,000 value, but he just provided basically nothing to the game. I felt like I was playing 2,000 gold down. Yet it still went okay. I love Plague Bearer infantry there. I mean, not a ton of value on all of them, but they hold their own. They're quite good. I think we need more shielded marauders to deal with like the cheap infantry. The Soul Grinder was okay. Rot Knights were a huge disappointment. So if there's 2 takeaways from that matchup, do not bring Epidemius and do not bring Rot Knights. Replace Epidemius with, it could be any number of characters, but probably a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Rot Beast and just have him with Rancid. And then he can go fight and provide help to different engagements. Whereas this Epidemius was basically useless in this game. Rot Knights were, you'd think they'd be good against Beastmen, big stuff. But Chaos Knights do arguably just as good against Minotaurs. The only place Rot Knights would be better would be against like Jabberslights, Gorgons, whatever. But, Beastmen don't bring those in this matchup in my experience. So I think just Chaos Knights are better. And then if you're going to be dealing with large, I think you would want to bring maybe 1 anti-large tool, but you could also go like double Nurgle character too, just to fight them, like double Nurgle champion on horseback or on Rot Beast to maneuver around and help on the mobile fight. I think that's big. But yeah, GG well played. He played a really good game. The Traderkins were nasty, 1800. And I would imagine his Centaurs did pretty good too. 800. They more or less always pay for themselves. They're pretty good. All right, guys. See you next time. Take care of yourselves. And that is it for today.